Transformers: The Last Knight is the 5th installment in the Michael Bay Transformers film franchise. And when it comes to Transformers as a franchise in general, not necessarily just the movies, but as, you know, the TV shows and the toys as a whole, I'm an enormous fan of this franchise. Transformers was a huge part of my childhood. Every day after school, I would come home and I would watch the TV shows. I collected the toys. I played with the toys. It was literally my life. And then around the time I was 13, I discovered they were making a live-action Transformers movie, and I got so excited for it. And I saw the first Transformers movie. I thought it was good. I thought it was fun. I thought it was enjoyable. And even to this day, I still feel that way. And because that movie was so successful, Michael Bay, of course, went ahead and he made 3 more Transformers movies. And it's safe to say most people in the world hate them. I've seen the reasons that people have given to why they hate these movies. I certainly cannot disagree with them when they say that they're bad movies. But as I mentioned in the first trailer review that I did for Transformers: The Last Knight, I own these movies on Blu-ray and I watch them from time to time. Because although I absolutely feel these movies are not good, I think they're fun, enjoyable, shut your brain off, and just enjoy some mindless action and explosion for 2.5 hours kind of movies. You're not a true movie lover if you don't have a few guilty pleasures. These are some of mine. So naturally, going into The Last Knight, I expected that I would enjoy it. I wasn't sure how everyone else out there would enjoy it. In fact, I predicted that this was going to be the same old shit. Which means, if you like the previous 4, like me, you'll enjoy this. If you hated any of the previous 4, you're gonna hate this. And lo and behold, this movie was indeed the same old shit. The movie opens up very similarly to how most of the Transformers movies have opened up at various points. A big event that happened way back in the past, we discover, revolved around the Transformers. In this case, it takes place during medieval times. You see King Arthur's wizard Merlin. He discovers a crashed alien ship, meets one of the Knights of Cybertron. The knight then hands him his staff, and he says, "This item is of great power. Use it wisely, and at a time, it's going to save the universe." Then the rest of the knights joined together, formed a giant beast dragon, and that's how King Arthur and his army won the war. And the reason you can tell right out the gate that this movie's going to be the exact same thing as the other ones is the dialogue. Is the dialogue good? No. It's really cheesy, awkward, very poorly written dialogue that you could tell Michael Bay was using to get laughs, but you could tell anyone who doesn't find it funny is already thinking, well, shit. I'll tell you right now, this movie is completely filled with Michael Bay's humor. And for me, I find the humor occasionally funny. There are times in these movies where I actually think it's funny, I laugh. What can I say? I like stupid humor sometimes. But obviously, yeah, there are moments of dialogue that are just awkward. You sit there like, oh, really? That's what you felt you had to write for that? So now the movie flashes back to present day. The government is still hunting down the Transformers, even though they saved the universe once again in the previous film. One of the elements, though, that I did like in this movie was Josh Duhamel's character. You know, he plays the same guy, Will Lennox, who's, you know, part of the military. And as a result, he's forced to work with this team in hunting down Transformers. But he's faced with that dilemma because the government has led everyone to believe that all Transformers are bad, but he knows from first-hand experience that not all Transformers are bad. Some, like the Autobots, are good. They fought for us, they saved the Earth, they saved the universe, they stopped the Decepticons. They're not all bad. We don't have to hunt them. So I did like seeing that, you know, this being his job, this being what he has to do, that he is conflicted throughout it. So I will give the movie props for that. But at the same time, there are people fighting for the Autobots like Cade Yeager. You know, at this point, he's allied with the troops that Optimus left behind with him. You know, he's going around fighting off these military forces and the drones they've sent after these Transformers. At one point, he runs into this group of kids that's led by this girl, Isabella. He saves them from these drones. Then he's able to briefly reactivate a knight in one of these Cybertronian ships, and then the knight gives him this icon that immediately just attaches itself to Mark Wahlberg's arm. And you know that little relic is going to lead to something big later on because the movie just completely set up for that. And now we learn a little bit more about Isabella's character. You know, she's an orphan. She's just been living in these abandoned areas. You know, she's allied herself with some of these Transformers because she knows they're not all bad. And, you know, she wants to stand by Mark Wahlberg, you know, because she shows Mark Wahlberg that she knows a little bit about how Transformers work mechanically. You know, she's pulling that whole, I want to stand, I want to fight them, you know, all that stuff. So you think, alright, I guess she's gonna be tagging along with Mark Wahlberg throughout this movie. And if I am being honest, we see her character for a grand total of maybe, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes? Keep in mind, this movie's like, what, 2.5 hours long? So you would think that a character that was really shown a lot in these trailers was gonna play a big part in this movie, and she doesn't. In fact, she really doesn't do much of anything in this movie. So as a result, you look back at this movie and you can't help but feel, yeah, you were a completely wasted character. Going into this movie, part of me thought that, you know, with the hot girl from Transformers 4 not being in this one, that Mark Wahlberg was gonna connect with this girl, maybe form a kind of father-daughter relationship with her, but that just didn't happen at all. So now getting into other characters that weren't in this movie very much, let's touch on Optimus Prime. As you know, at the end of the 4th movie, he left Earth to go find his creators, and after just drifting in the solar system for who fucking knows how long, he gets sucked into a deformed Cybertron. And once he's on Cybertron, he finally meets his creator, who is Quintessa. She claims herself to be the prime of life. And I know a lot of fans out there were really pissed off with the character of Quintessa because, you know, for those of you who don't know, she's a ploy on the characters, the Quintessons. In the original Transformers lore, they were indeed the creators of the Transformers, but they had multiple heads, multiple personalities, and, you know, they were guys. Quintessa is very loosely based off of that, and I can tell a lot of fans were very pissed that the movie decided to take that kind of direction with it. That didn't really piss me off because here's the thing, the Transformers universe, that's been around since our parents were kids. Wait, actually no, my parents were young adults when the original Transformers cartoon aired. My parents are old. Think that's gonna piss them off? I love you, Mom and Dad. Don't hate me. But anyway, she like chains up Optimus Prime. She tells him how he destroyed the homeworld, and she tells him that Unicron lives in Earth's core, and she intends to drain Unicron's life force to restore Cybertron. And you know, she tells Optimus like, this is your chance to redeem yourself. Go to Earth, destroy it, and Cybertron will be saved once again. And you know, you see his eyes flickering red. You can tell he's turning evil because she's now turning him into Nemesis Prime. And once again, this was an area that really disappointed me because I thought this was going to be one of the bigger storylines in this movie. I thought Optimus Prime was going to be the antagonist of this movie. For at least the majority of it, I expected at some point toward maybe the final act of this movie he would turn back to good. But I thought one of the biggest storylines of the movie was going to be the humans and the Autobots having to turn Optimus Prime back to good and figure out a way to save Cybertron with him on their side. And really, that scene right there is about all we see of Optimus until the final act of the movie. And again, that's just one of the issues that the Transformers movie trailers have had. They make you think something entirely. They make you think that this character is going to play a huge role, or this is going to be a big part of the story. And really, it never turns out to be anything like that. So now at this point, Mark Wahlberg and Bumblebee, after leaving Isabella with the other Autobots, you know, they go off to London to try to figure out more information about everything that's going on. They meet Anthony Hopkins, who's been studying Transformers lore for a very long time, especially during the medieval times. We're also introduced to Laura Haddock. She plays this sort of Oxford professor who also studies medieval times. Now getting into her character, she's clearly being used by Michael Bay as the hot girl that always shows up in these Transformers movies. I will say, what I did like about her is she wasn't like overly sexualized for the sake of being overly sexualized like all the other girls in the Transformers movies were. I mean, yeah, Michael Bay still has her dressing kind of revealing, just, you know, for the sake of the male audience and everything like that, but, you know, it's not like her tits are completely out. It's not like her ass is like hanging out of her shorts like all the other girls were in the other movies. He actually had this girl a little more classy, so you know what? Good for you, Michael Bay. At least now some of the feminazis will back off of you. So at this point, Anthony Hopkins, along with his Autobot Cogman, who was basically a British butler Autobot who could break you with his pinky. That guy actually had a few funny moments, I won't lie. But they explained to Laura Haddock, Mark Wahlberg, and Bumblebee what the big story was behind the medieval times, how, you know, Merlin got that staff from that knight, and only a descendant of Merlin can wield that staff. And it turns out Laura Haddock is indeed a descendant of Merlin, so she's the only one who can wield that staff, so now they gotta get the staff before Megatron and his Decepticons do. So they all go into the submarine underwater where the staff is supposed to be to get to this giant Cybertronian ship that's also underwater. And the whole time you can tell the movie's movie's trying to build this romance between Mark Wahlberg and Laura Haddock, and you know, you don't really buy it. Their romance is there for the sake of having one there. So at this point, they get the staff, but that also awakens the knights that were in this ship. But no, we're now into the final act, so they don't have to worry about those knights. They gotta worry about a brainwashed Optimus Prime. He shows up, he's ready to kill the humans to get the staff, he's kicking the shit out of Bumblebee. And then comes another moment that really just didn't make that much sense. Optimus Prime has got Bumblebee pinned down. It's that scene in the trailer. He whips out the sword, he's ready to stab Bumblebee to death. But Bumblebee stops him, finally speaks in his normal voice to talk to Optimus, and that just snaps Optimus right out of it. He turns back to normal, he realizes what he's done, and you know, now everything's fine, he's good again. It's like, wow, really? So you mean to tell me this whole time that Bumblebee has been able to speak with his normal voice, you know, he's just been talking with his radio and using movie and TV clips to speak just for shits and gigs? And that was all Optimus needed to just turn back to good? Yeah, like I said, I enjoyed this movie for what it was, but yeah, if I'm being honest, that didn't flow well at all, and they could have done it so much better. Like I said, Optimus Prime being the antagonist was just a big tease for everyone to go see the movie, I guess. But now at this point, the Decepticons show up. Megatron now kicks Optimus's ass. He takes the staff himself, and he's like, we're gonna take this to Quintessa because we've been working with her this whole time. So now at this point, the Knights are trying to kill Optimus because they feel he betrayed them. But at this point, that relic that Mark Wahlberg got from one of those Knights at the very beginning of this movie, guess what? That turns into like an Excalibur sword. He stops them, gets the Knights to yield to him because that sword makes Mark Wahlberg the last Knight. Yeah, it's just another convenience to throw into this movie. Part of me really thinks that Michael Bay just doesn't give a shit with writing because he knows his audience isn't here for great storytelling or great character development or anything like that. He knows the audience is here to watch action. So now let's get into the final battle because that's when all the action is at its full spectacle like it is in every Transformers movie. Megatron has brought the staff to Quintessa. She's now activated in Cybertron's core, which is now absorbing thermal energy from the Earth, which is eventually going to destroy it. So now the Autobots go to Cybertron, and now it's a big battle between the Decepticons and the Autobots like it always is. And yeah, are these action scenes nonsense and explosive and ridiculous? Yes. But what can I say? I enjoy them. Visually, it looks cool. The teenage part of my brain still thinks it's awesome seeing all these fiery explosions that don't make sense. Oh yeah, and this is all happening at the Stonehenge because it turns out the Stonehenge was built as this like beam to direct Cybertron where to go. You know, yeah, it does what all the Transformers movies do, you know, chooses a, you know, huge wonder of the world from the past of Earth and makes it something that ties in with Cybertron. There you go. Had to make sure I threw that into my spoiler talk. So anyways, the fight's going on. The Autobots are kicking ass like they always do. Optimus Prime. Well, let's be real. Even if you hate these movies, Optimus Prime's an absolute badass. At one point, he's in the ship. You know, Quintessa's just sending her army after him, and he just takes all of them out with, like, one swing of his sword. I love seeing Robo-Jesus be a badass. So the Knights have turned into the Dragon. They're now killing most of the Decepticons. Optimus defeats Megatron, and then at this point, Bumblebee looks like he kills Quintessa. This allows Laura Haddock, you know, after she and Mark Wahlberg have kissed and decide they're gonna be a couple, this allows her to take the staff away from Cybertron, which now saves Earth. The Autobots have won. Lennox now has his soldiers seeing that the Autobots are good. Isabella comes back because, you know, the movie needed to bring her back for the final act. And now it's about the Autobots working to rebuild Cybertron because now Cybertron's basically connected to Earth. But wait, we get a somewhat post-credit scene. It's not exactly a post-credit scene, but it's close to it. Turns out Quintessa survived. She's now taking a human form. She's talking to these other humans because they see this giant horn sticking out of Earth's surface. She tells them that's Unicron, and I can tell you how to destroy him. So, you know, the movie just completely is now setting up for a sixth movie. You can tell it's probably gonna revolve around Unicron. And yeah, you know who's interested in that and is definitely going to go see it? This guy. So yeah, all in all, like I said, Transformers The Last Knight is exactly what you expect it to be. In terms of human actors, Mark Wahlberg, Josh Duhamel, Laura Haddock, they do a decent job in this movie. Anthony Hopkins was fine, but there are some moments with Michael Bay dialogue where you could tell he's really trying to phone it in. Not that I blame him for that, but it is obvious. Isabella was a completely wasted character. I seriously don't know why she was even in this movie. It's great seeing Optimus Prime in this movie, but like I said, he's not in the movie very much, and I really do wish they focused more on him being evil for the majority of this movie. I actually think that could have been really cool for it. It's great to see the Autobots again. It's great to see Megatron and the rest of the Decepticons again when you see them. Because yeah, true to the other Transformers movies, it focuses on the humans with maybe a few Transformers squeezed in on the adventure with them here and there. And then they all come together for a big action scene that's full of explosions and nonsense, and you know, sometimes it's hard to follow, and it's more explosions, and it's Optimus Prime just killing Decepticons. Like I said, I have fun with that. I just turn my brain off and I enjoy it for what it is. But yeah, there are people out there who hate it, and I do not argue them on that. And in the end, I will certainly not say this is a good movie, but I enjoyed this movie. I had fun with it. And I know that's all that Michael Bay is going for with these kind of movies. If you're someone who hates the Transformers movies for obvious reasons, you're gonna hate this movie too. Michael Bay has said that this is the final Transformers movie that he is doing, and I personally do hope that is the case because I really do want to see the direction another director could take with this franchise. So that's all I gotta say, guys. Thank you so much for watching my video. Don't forget to leave a comment, like, subscribe, and I will see you all next time.